ticky, ba-boom, boom, ticky, ticky, boom, ticky, ba-boom, boom, ticky, ticky, wark. Welcome, welcome, my multicolored feline appendages of the Voltrosphere. 'Tis I, your wrestling host, Eric, the penguin you tell all your friends is a doctor because you can't bear the disappointment any longer. And as always, circumnavigating port side of the green couch is Dustin, the human embodiment of everybody's favorite Oreo cookie fanfiction. How are you doing today, buddy?
What? What?
On this episode of Women Can Wrestle, Dustin and I are looking at and reviewing a show that we went to live. We enjoyed NOVApro on March 10th, 2018 up in Annandale, Virginia, and walked away from the experience with an extremely positive outlook on the independent professional wrestling scene. But now the veil of live entertainment excitement has been stripped away, leaving us to review this event through the lens of the camera and all its disassociative glory. Dustin, did you feel like the event would hold up through rewatching at home?
Yeah, I thought so. Sitting in the crowd, we had a pretty good idea of what the camera shots were going to look like. I was really impressed. I did not think that the ringside camera work would be as good as it ended up being. But yeah, I thought it held up well.
We accidentally showed up on camera a number of times. Always kept an eye out for us.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's get started. Opening with announcer interruption by Logan Easton LaRue, king of the 1%, shouting off about not being on an all-female card. Logan generates heat by aggressively belittling the women until he is interrupted by a parent safety advocate, Tim Donst. Unfortunately, babyface Donst is Pearl Harbored by 1% supporter Bobby Shields, forcing this match into a 1v2 beatdown. What a very masculine way to start the first all-women NOVApro show. In an unfolding plot that was easier to read than a Goosebumps novel, female performer and beloved hometown babyface Alley Cat shimmies her way to the ring, evening out the scuffle and embarrassing the heels with a flurry of feminine offense, capping off the segment with a feel-good pinfall moment for uteruses everywhere. Dustin, thoughts?
So because you were sitting next to me, and while this was happening, I was not happy. Look, I get the idea. Use the opportunity at the beginning of the show to kind of show off for maybe people who have never been to a NOVApro show. Like, look, this is one of our main performers. From what I can tell, Logan Easton LaRue is their main heel, so they, were able to generate some really, nuclear heat on him for coming out, and you let one of your main babyface women come and save the day. It all makes sense to me, but it was the wrong choice. Like I said, I understand why they did it. It just didn't work for me. Just let the women have their show. Leave the men out of it.
Yeah, I basically agree. All right, so match number 1, Lanie Luck versus Machko-san. Cotton candy-flavored Lanie Luck swivels her way out of Machko's offense, a scenario capped off by the famous double bridge spot. A number of back-and-forth pinfall attempts draw attention to the start-stop structure of the match, creating a mild sense of irritation. Aggressive ringside botching carries us back to the canvas for audible trash talk with a side of turnbuckle osmosis. Things pick up as the always welcome Tarantula is soon forgotten, thanks to a jovial reminder of the majesty that is the Texas Cloverleaf. Machko's heel activity keeps Lanie in check for the majority of our in-ring story time, but happily ever after rears its head when the pink and blue unicorn stew catches a sidekick, reversing the strike into a spiffy German suplex. Lanie pockets the victory at 10-14. Dustin, what did you think?
I gave it a 5. I thought it was an entertaining first match. It kept me interested. I thought both women worked well together. I want to talk a little bit about the gimmicks. We don't have any storylines, we don't have any promos ahead of time, so all we really had to go on with the women were their gimmicks. Lanie Luck, the party unicorn, kind of felt like a sorority girl flirting with being a furry. From what I could tell, when it came to her in-ring character, party girl just meant she dabbed once or twice.
Once or twice is 3 times too many, for the record.
That's very true. Machiko, actually, she wasn't all there for me, but there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed. It wasn't clear to me that she was definitely going for being a heel. It wasn't always well communicated. She definitely tried her best to trash talk in the ring, but some of the trash talk just wasn't very good, and when she came out at the beginning, to me it felt like she was a face playing a heel.
I really enjoyed the energy of the match, though. Even though the two had some ebb and flow issues early, the pace didn't slow long enough to cripple the entertainment value for me. There were a lot of small botches, though, like Lainey going for a kick she knew was going to be caught, so she throws it a bit too slow, and then Machko misses catching it properly anyhow, and it creates sort of an awkward moment or two. The match was full of these like tiny individual insignificant slip-ups, but compiled, they sort of devalued the overall score a tad. But that being said, I did like both performers. They were colorful and like their ring gear, audible trash talk. Their face-heel storytelling was a little muddled, sure, but I feel like overall it didn't wind up destroying the match more than any other variable could have. I thought it was a solid opener and a decent introduction to the two performers. I gave it a 6 out of 10. All right, match 2. Aspen Rose and Jinx versus Ariella Nix and Hyen. This match requires a locksmith as Aspen and Hyen kick off with a 50-50 series of hammerlocks and headlocks. A few stuttery spots end well for the faces as Jinx momentarily reverses a series of Hyen's relentless offense. Eventually, size and strength double-team poor Jinx, leaving her in a desperate need of a tag to Aspen, who, once engaged, energetically springs to action, keeping Ms. Nix at bay. With Jinx and Ariella violently cluttering up ringside, Hyen beautifully eats a stunner from Aspen that triggers our match finale. Team Tide Pod take the 3-count victory after being put through the spin cycle by Ariella and Hyen, too busy airing their dirty laundry to successfully clean up their offense. And after 10-14, Penguin humor doesn't get any drier than this.
I am so disappointed in you.
That's so weird. I'm so proud of me.
Look, I thought it was a perfectly fine match. I think both of us, Jinx really stood out, which is one of the reasons that you lined up an interview with her. I think actually for me it was the smile that sold it more than anything. I think you touched on the interview. A lot of time when people go for the punk rock vibe, they go for intimidating or brooding. But personally in my life, having gone to many punk and metal shows, punk rock people are some of the friendliest people in the world. Aspen Rose, I didn't dig her as much. She kind of felt like a steampunk sky pirate from like an anime.
Her thing is supposed to be that she's some kind of mermaid, hence the blue.
She was fine. I mean, she definitely had a unique look, and it wasn't terrible. It didn't stand out to me as much as Jinx. Ariella Nix and Hyen, really, I think we've talked before about how, for me, like, the big, tough, brooding, ethnic woman gimmick just doesn't work. And they both kind of had that vibe. But like I said, the match was really good. I thought Jinx and Hyen were the two that really stood out to me. I'd give it a 6, and I think it's a 6 because of Jinx. Otherwise, I mean, it was kind of formulaic, so maybe it would have been a 5, but Jinx really pulled me into a 6.
The best part of this match for me is the clear juxtaposition of the high-energy, quickly-moving, multicolored babyface team as contrasted against the darker-toned, methodical, determined heels, you know. The perfectly timed in-ring storytelling was crystal clear and with enthusiasm to spare. I was very entertained by the antics of Jinx and Aspen. I think they're great, as we've talked about before and you just mentioned. However, the previously mentioned stuttery spots did make the performers seem like they had minimal experience together. This didn't ruin the match for me, per se, but it did make for a number of awkward transitions and low-impact strikes. If these ladies had been touring together, I imagine the showcase would have been a point or two higher thanks to familiarity. But as it stands, I'm granting these 4 women, their performance, a 6 out of 10. So I'm pretty much right in line with you on this one as well.
I always find it interesting when we end up at the same place because I think we look for different things.
I hear you. Yeah. Match 3, Kylie Rae versus Isla Dawn. Babyface clad in pika yellow and black, Kylie jumps into a lengthy series of reversed lockups with Isla that parallel a looser version of Brett and Owen. The series culminates in, well, nothing, but serves as a reliable information delivery method that tells us how evenly matched these two performers are. The methodical pace is shattered by crisscross, hip toss, and a clothesline, all set to the crowd chanting, "I choose you, I choose you." Polite golf claps peppered throughout the bout serve as a ringing declaration that there is an impressive set of skills on display here tonight. Then, Isla's ground game gets broken when her clothesline is reversed by Kylie into a flip-over standing heel kick, which gains both the audience approval and only a 2 count. The match does start to get a bit kicky, but manages to stay fresh when a Russian leg sweep crossface combo stirs in a bit of halting tension. But then, out of nowhere, Isla locks in a dragon sleeper that forces Kylie to tap at 11:31. Dustin, penny for your thoughts.
So Isla Dawn, She's the first of a couple performers that were on the show where I kind of get like the idea behind their gimmick and there was nothing wrong with it, but there just wasn't enough there for me really to comment on it. She was the priestess. She was introduced as rising from the ashes of her ancestors, which I'm still trying to puzzle that statement through in my head and trying to really figure out what that means. What she was aiming for, it was fine for what it was. It didn't really stand out to me. Now, Kylie Rae surprised me. As you know, I hate anything childish or with any sort of childish enthusiasm. Also, I hate Pokemon more than anything. That said, for some reason, Smiley Kylie really worked for me. I don't know if it was all of the crowd getting behind it with all of the really interesting, really different chants that were happening throughout the whole match. I don't know if it was her sort of kind of, in a way, having like a pop culture themed outfit. Reminded me maybe of Leva Bates from Shine 47 when she cosplayed as Diva. I don't know what it was, but there was something about it that really drew me in, and I really enjoyed it. The match, I was entertained. Like I said, all the crowd's different Pokemon chants really kept me invested as well. I mean, if I got pulled out of the match a little bit, I kind of got drawn back in by the crowd. Again, overall, it was a perfectly fine match. It kept me entertained. I have no complaints. I give it a 6 out of 10.
All right. My biggest concern was match length and how it all felt a bit long-winded, especially the overbooked opening back and forth. But besides that and a strangely momentumless finish, this was an excellent showcase for both talents, all things considered. Hard-hitting clothesline, clean hip tosses, great selling, well-spotted reversals, and some delightfully fast-paced storytelling had me in. It felt as if the girls didn't pull their punches and just about every strike was fast and audible. Like, you know those times where somebody pulls a punch really hard and you can tell that they're really not connecting versus somebody who actually goes ahead and just nails them? This felt like the better version of that. This was, in my opinion, basically a WWE quality match, and I would have been happy to see this on Monday Night Raw. Not a main event, of course, but just in there. So, thanks, ladies. 8 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
Match 4, Faye Jackson versus Tara Callaway. In a refreshingly unique and appropriate opening sequence, the two full-figured femme fatales lock up and proceed to push each other around the ring in a power showcase reminiscent of Godzilla sumo forcing his monstrous rivals through balsa wood buildings. Successful booking of two unstoppable goddesses continue as Faye is unable to lift the Queen of Dinosaurs, pushing Tara to the front of the contest. A few back and forths lead to Faye consuming a massive sidewalk slam, shaking the whole damn ring. Next, a consensual cannonball duel showcases both women no-selling the titular maneuver, sending the crowd into a "This is awesome" chant, echoed by a standing ovation. Jackson eventually grinds Dino Dame down before Faye capitalizes with some jaw-dropping running booty avalanches punctuated by Tara's excellent ragdoll selling. The go-home sequence introduces Tara to Faye Jackson's X Factor before a rollover, leg lock, chokeout submission makes Tara's chances of victory go extinct at 9:38. Dustin! Words in your head that make them out of your mouth.
I was not sure about these two women when they first came out.
I have a feeling we might be on the same page here, but go on.
Well, so when I first saw and heard Tara's introduction and her entrance, I kind of rolled my eyes because she was the queen of the dinosaurs, hailing from Isla Nublar, which if you're big on Jurassic Park, that's where Jurassic Park was. It felt kind of corny, but I don't know, it kind of grew on me. Like, I kind of don't hate it. And then as I rewatch things on the VOD after we got that, it's a little out there, but I think I like it. Faye Jackson's gimmick, look, not everyone needs a gimmick.
She's kind of got a gimmick. I mean, her big booty is sort of her gimmick, and her entrance music emphasized it at least.
Well, sure. I mean, when I say gimmick, I more often mean like, kind of like a character. And she doesn't really have a character. I guess her gimmick is that her milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. And I like milkshakes, so that's fine. But I have to say, as far as I can remember, this is the first time I've ever had a true, like, big girl on big girl match. I mean, you get those with the men pretty often. But I can't think of any time where there's been, like, in the WWE, there's never even really been two big girls at the same time. I thought they both did a really good job with it. It was a 7 out of 10 for me.
Nice. Yeah, we're very similar. Most big versus big booking is shallow and devoid of decent crowd engagement, but here, Faye and Tara made the most of this setup and put on a hell of a performance. The momentum rarely slowed too much for the canvas-based battle structure that gave us a believable and engrossing contest. It did have a few weak spots here and there, sure, notably in their kicks and chops, but it didn't last too long, and both women had great charisma, fun characters to smooth over the bumps. This is how you book plus-size women between the ropes. I'd say this was another WWE quality bout, but that would be insulting to these two, as the Fed has a disappointing track record with equally sized talent. If this were maybe a minute shorter, I'd go a point higher, but no lie, this was at least an 8 out of 10 for me. Bravo, ladies. I both have been brought to your yard, Faye, and I am now a Jurassic Mark Tara.
I was so close to giving this match an 8.
It was really surprising for two big girls, wasn't it? It really blew me out of the water for what my expectations were.
I'm sitting here contemplating whether I want to make it an 8.
I think you should. Give it an 8. Give it an 8. Give it an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah!
The only reason I hadn't given it an 8 was because, like I said, I thought the character work was not all there. But the more that I think about it, the more that I hear you talk about it.
My man.
It's becoming even more clear to me how good the match itself was. That, yeah, it's definitely an 8.
Yeah, I remember that the massive sidewalk slam, and it was like kablowy and put everyone on their feet. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that it's two big women who are completely leaning into it, and they're not ashamed of who they are or their body size in any way, shape, or form. You girls are my heroes. I love you so much. Match 5, Brittany Blake versus Hudson Envy. The contest starts with no selling from heel Hudson to assert her physical dominance against Brittany and her smaller stature. Thanks to this dynamic, Envy takes easy early control, cleanly outlining the forthcoming story of the match. Babyface Blake comes nose-to-nose with the smokestack of the Pain Train, only able to throw occasional haymakers to keep herself afloat. Momentum eventually swings the other direction as Blake plays the smart underdog, capitalizing on the questionable mistakes wrought by Hudson and her short-sightedness. After pulling the action to ringside, a tornado DDT is obscured by poor camera and editing work, thus missing one of the better spots of the bout. After an endless knockout rest spot, the two flop their way back to a series of punches and kicks that finally drag us to the checkered flag. Finally, halting a top rope Samoan drop, Blake hits a double foot stomp on a keeled over Envy, allowing her to pick up the victory at 10:41. Dustin, say some word things about this performance show.
Word things is about all I have. I guess both of their gimmicks were generic metalhead. They both came out to metalish music, throwing up the devil horns. There wasn't much there for either one of them, I didn't think. I didn't think Hudson really worked for me as a tough girl. Although, and I mentioned this to you when we were there, I think it's because every time I looked at her, for some reason I saw Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years. Look, I can never find Winnie Cooper intimidating. I didn't dislike much about either woman's look. They just didn't click with me for some reason. I will give kind of an honorable mention to Hudson's tights. I liked the make history down the side of it.
But should it have been make herstory?
I just... every time we record. Every time. Why? Why, Dustin? Why do you allow this to be done to you? And yet I keep coming back like a fool. Sure, make herstory. That's fine. Just like this match was.
All right.
It was entertaining. To me, it was on the lower end of the card, unfortunately. Like I said, I liked both women fine enough, but for me, it wasn't all there. 4 out of 10, unfortunately.
All right, fair enough. For me, this was an 11-minute match that really should have been more like 7. The time-wasting ringside crawl could have been ditched alongside a number of punch and kick scenes. The storytelling was clean, and there was a nice face-heel dynamic, and the in-ring action wasn't, certainly wasn't terrible. But this late in the card, this bout did very little of interest, and anything it accomplished was better showcased through a more entertaining affair earlier in the night. These women clearly have talent, and I'd like to see them again, but this may have served better as the opener of the evening, especially coming in on the heels of 2 previous fantastic performances. So it's not great, it's not bad, and I'm going the Dustin route and getting it a fine, or 5 out of 10. Match 6, Jordan Blade versus Harlow O'Hara. A fake-out lockup is the trailer for the opening exchange, in a world of reversals, thus kicking things into high gear. Leaning on her priestess gimmick, O'Hara ties up Jordan in the ropes and demands that she confess her sins aloud for the audience to witness. Energetic Jordan Blade answers with a short stint of offense before O'Hara takes her off the top rope with a super fisherman suplex. Heel dominance is soon cut off when Jordan awkwardly regains control, landing a big forearm to set up a well-timed neckbreaker. A 3-count fall seals the victory for Jordan Blade at a brisk 6:31. Dustin, thoughts?
This is one of the matches I'm going to kind of just glow on for a second. We'll talk about Jordan Blade first. Again, it's that sort of tough girl gimmick that for me just doesn't usually work. But it worked more for her than it normally does. She definitely had the look to back it up. Harlow O'Hara, oh my goodness.
You fell in love with her, didn't you?
I did. I want to go to every show that she's at. The gimmick is so good. I just absolutely love it. Her entrance music was great. It started out with kind of sounds like religious singing, kind of sort of chanty. Like I couldn't quite make out the words, so I don't know exactly what it was, but it definitely had a religious vibe to it. So she comes out and she's got this nasty looking crown on that looks like it would maybe cut you if you touched it. Her entrance gear looked like it was velvet. It looked really awesome. She just looked really wicked, and I loved that. And then she's not a small girl, but I think her ring gear, like, it works for her body type perfectly. I don't want it to sound like Jordan was not great, because she was, but man, I had this as a 7 out of 10, but as I've been talking about it, I've talked myself into an 8 for this one as well.
I enjoyed Harlow much more than Jordan, if only because there was a clear gimmick for the priestess and it worked very well. The in-ring work was quick, clean, and these two did seem to fit pretty well together. The match length was brisk and to the point, so pacing wasn't a problem, but aside from all these positives, nothing really stuck with me. I loved O'Hara's character immensely, but I didn't feel investment, I didn't really get a sense of the story, and honestly, I didn't even really remember this match despite seeing it live. In fact, I kind of bet dollars to donuts that its viewing will befall a similar fate in about 15 minutes. I wanted to give it a 5, but because it was quick enough to be inoffensive, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Onward and upward. Match 7, Solo Darling versus Tasha Steelz. First thing to notice is how striking these two performers look. Beautiful, memorable, and in great shape, these ladies burst out of the gate with a pace that mirrors their visual kineticism. A series of impressive opening bumps make way for a deliberate architecture from Tasha, making multiple attempts to hit her finisher early on to no avail. She does keep Solo on the canvas long enough to showcase some fancy footwork, solidifying her heel relationship with the audience. Darling seizes an opportunity, takes control, and delivers a second rope tornado suplex? Neat! The offense is short-lived, however, as Tasha Steelz lands a beautiful top rope butterfly suplex from the opposite corner, a success she can't capitalize, with Solo's foot just able to make the ropes. Quickly up and moving, the girls are ready for the finale. A caught kick allows Solo to ground Tasha and finagle a sharpshooter, eventually scoring young Ms. Darling her win for the night in 8:03. Dustin, brain to mouth!
Unfortunately, this was the low point of the night for me. I disagree with you. I thought both Tasha and Solo were completely forgettable. Tasha, I will say, when she came out, I liked her entrance music. I liked her entrance gear. She was, again, a performer who was just doing this sort of I'm a badass gimmick, but she kind of sold me on it until, no offense to her, she's a smaller girl than she kind of carried herself as coming in. So I liked her entrance, but once the match got going, for me there wasn't a lot there. Solo Darling, from what I gather, she's half of a mixed gender tag team called the Rumblebees. Don't know anything about that tag team. I caught there was a little bit of fan interaction between her and someone in the crowd when she was being checked by the ref for foreign objects and stuff. There's a little bit of back and forth there that makes me believe that there is a character and a gimmick and a storyline for the Rumblebees. Unfortunately, it was our first time at NOVApro, so I have no idea what any of that is. There was nothing there for me to really latch on to. The match itself, even watching it again in the VOD, it was one of those matches where I just kind of felt the need to sort of skip through. It just didn't do anything for me. So, I hate to say that because both of the women clearly were putting their all into it, but just for me it didn't click. It was a 3 out of 10.
I completely get it. No argument or complaints. But with that being said, I was ready to dig in and prepare for a long struggle between the two. But in a delightful surprise, the pace kept up, the showcase was strong, and the match was short. Huzzah! Very delighted to witness two women who not only worked to each other's strengths, but both looked like they belong in a more professional setting, like example, NXT. Something about the hair, the ring gear, the work rate, the physical shape of these women screams that we're going to be seeing more of them in the future. I can't wait. I would love to see them in like a proper ongoing story to gauge their value on the mic and their acting and such. But for here and for now, a very entertaining 7 out of 10. Match 8, Alley Cat versus Holiday. In a cute pre-bell spot, a member of the crowd throws a ball of yarn into the ring, triggering Alley to fully commit to the cat gimmick. Meow. I feel like this open mockery has an aggressive dose of sexuality to it, and honestly, it may be the most tasteful way I've seen it done before. The bell finally goes off, and the two trade near misses before rolling around on the ground in an attempt to garner control. Back on their feet through hissing and spitting, they continue the struggle for dominance with mutual body checks before trading blows. Several minutes in, and there's no sign of either competitor taking full control because it's all, you do a move, then I do a move. Next, Alley is saved from having to complete a suicide dive by Holly's right hook, a sequence that will set up the driest spot of the match, chair chops. Interest and momentum die a slow death and are promptly buried in a shallow grave of Alley selling to Holiday's control. 50-50 booking will take us through most of the match, occasionally reminding us that these two ladies have decent portfolio of tactics. There are a sizable number of individual small sequences that look and feel pretty good, but they're glued together with like an uncoordinated, poorly designed mishmash of momentum. We wind down now for our finish as an attempted unprettier is reversed by not one, but two big headbutts, meaning the match is mercifully at its conclusion as Alley nabs the victory at, 14:53. Dustin, are you alive over there?
Oh, wow. I love it when this happens. Yet again, it sounds like we were just like watching completely different matches. I loved this match. So, first off, Alley Cat, how can you hate that gimmick? She was so committed to it. I loved it so much. The ball of yarn at the beginning, she got tangled in it. But she was like in the streamers, like making snow angels. Again, I usually hate like the very childish sort of things, but I don't know. It was so cute. It was endearing. And Holiday's gimmick going in, I kind of rolled my eyes at it. I was like, oh, okay, she painted her face. But then after having seen it live and going home and doing some Googling on, the different wrestlers whom I wasn't that familiar with, and coming across some of her promos and getting the idea behind her gimmick, I really love her gimmick too. It kind of reminds me of like early days Mankind, the just like completely unhinged, out there, sadistic sort of character. I love it a lot. So both women I loved, and the match I thought was great. Start to finish, I loved the whole thing. I'm so shocked to hear you say that you didn't enjoy it. I ended up giving this match an 8.1 because the highest I've rated anything since we started doing this show has been an 8. This match was not a 9, but this is the best 8 I have seen. So I had to give it that extra 0.1. I absolutely loved it.
Holy crap, was this long and exhausting. Jeesh. The actual talent in this match is nearly one-sided. It would be a lie to say Alley isn't a decent worker, but Holiday is so clearly dropping a few echelons to meet her halfway that by comparison, Alley is just a pretty kitty. Everything Holly does feels purposeful. She intentionally targets Alley's back throughout the match, works to the natural climax of her spots, and her strikes are hard and fast. In contrast, Alley feels nearsighted, shuffling around the ring, meandering towards payoffs like the suicide dive that didn't happen or the chair chops. Additionally, she seems to overly value their potential real-life friendship by taking it too easy on her during the fisticuffs, something I brought up earlier. The two women have great and understandable gimmicks. They're awesome, thankfully. But one of them knew how to play their character, and the other one knew how to own it. Rating this match is tricky, of course, since the overall product is a team effort, and with one outshining the other so clearly, I find myself struggling to find a representational numeric value. But, that being said, I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10, which feels like a happy middle ground between the 5 that is Alley and the 8 that is Holly. Although I feel the 6 is very generous considering the near 15 minutes it took to survive this contest. So, on to our main event of the night, match number 9, Rain versus Angelus Lane. The main event of the evening doesn't start with enough energy to revive the understandably tired attendants, sadly downplaying the aura of the match. Typical lockups round off into a missed chop that can only be described as a booby buster from Rain to Lane. After consuming some staggering offense, Angelus retreats to the outside, resetting match momentum. A brief tour of the ringside crowd, and the action finds its way back between the ropes with a series of forearms, courtesy of Angelus's heel tactics. Babyface Rain struggles to stay on her feet when, spot of the night, Angelus uses Rain's vagina as a stepladder. The crowd have perked up for whatever the opposite of fisting is. Admittedly, it was a pretty cool spot. Lane misses a senton, allowing Rain to catch a breath and gain her first real control of the bout with a backpack sleeper. Offense is short-lived for Rain, however, as Angelus finds her way to the outside, takes a drink from a nearby bottled water, and returns back to action, using the bottle itself as a ref diversion. Unfettered, Angelus sprays Rain with a mouthful of liquid booking, weakening her mojo enough for a small package 3 count. The big main event win goes to Angelus Lane and her villainous antics in 11:20. What did you think of the main event, Dustin?
Again, I thought it was a perfectly entertaining match. It was certainly not the best match of the night. Gimmick-wise, Rain is Rain. Angelus Lane is Angelus Lane. They referred to her as wrestling's Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I have that exact same question.
Yeah, I didn't actually dislike either one, though. Like, they didn't really have characters, but I was interested in watching both of them, even though neither one had a gimmick or a character or anything like that. I enjoyed them both. I thought Rain did a very good job being the babyface. Angelus definitely played a great heel. I loved the birth control spot. That's what I'm going to call it. Just all of the blatant heel tactics I really enjoyed. I don't know if you saw this coming, but I'm going to get on my soapbox. What the hell with the surprise roll-up? That was dumb. It's water. It's not acid or sand or dirt. It's water. And I know that Angelus also grabbed her tights, but last I checked, water in your eyes does not mean your legs stop working to kick out. To me, that was awful booking for an ending. Like I said, it was a perfectly entertaining match. I enjoyed both women. I gave it a 6 out of 10. And it may have been a 5 if it weren't for Angelus's heel work.
So, my thoughts. Another match that maybe went a minute or so too long, but aside from that, I thought this was pretty okay. We've seen Rain before in our Shine 47 review, who also, side note, was the punching bag for her match then, as she was here as well. So I knew what kind of talent to expect with her. But Angelus was a nice surprise, very sharp in her bumping and selling. I loved her audible trash talk, very nice. The mostly dominant heel story was on display here. Entertaining, but not exactly groundbreaking, sure. The two did have decent chemistry, and I was never bored, so kudos to the pacing and in-ring storytelling. Everything was serviceable, everybody was good, everything worked, but I just wasn't in love with any of it, except, just like we talked about, I did really like a part of the ending. It was a clever use of diversion, to say the least, and had it been coupled with something more devastating, it would have been an amazing heel victory, you know? The ending kind of sold me, because of that. So I'm going to say whole thing, I feel like 7's a little high, but 6 is a little low. Oh yeah, I'll go 6. 6 out of 10 it is for me. We're going to do overall event review. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to do it first?
Yeah, go ahead and go first.
I was worried that rewatching from my office chair would dilute some of the entertainment value we enjoyed from the high-energy live participation. Thankfully, this was not the case, as the majority of matches held up quite strongly upon closer inspection. There were some real winners on display that night, and after spending time writing up my opinions on each bout, I found that some of my new favorite ladies to keep an eye on in the coming years, and man, thumbs up all around. As for event peripherals, the location was clean and well lit. The attendees were enthusiastic, positively charged, professional and highly trained referees. I really want to throw a shout out to them. They did a great job. They kept a strong sense of kayfabe, and the talent were all passable at least, and amazing at best. What a great time we had, and what a surprisingly enjoyable rewatch. As for the evening's match quality, we got 2 8 out of 10s back-to-back, in my opinion, which was a most welcome turn of events. Some fun opening contests, and the card wasn't crammed with tag teams in order to get more talent in the ring. WWE. Most matches were adequately paced, and only 2 out of the 9 bouts ran too long, in my opinion, which is very acceptable percentage. Overall, this was a positive experience. I'm glad we'll be spending more time turning an eye to the indie scene in future episodes of Women Can Wrestle. In conclusion, NOVApro's Ripper to Shreds event gets a 7 out of 10 from me in total. Dustin, what did you think?
Yeah, I left that event just glowing with how great it was. I came in expecting something worse than Shine, because of the hierarchy of wrestling promotions, right? WWE's the best, so they're going to produce the best, and Shine's kind of second, maybe third tier, so they're going to produce a little bit less, and then NOVApro is obviously like a local indie, so...
They're way down there, yeah.
Yeah, right. Of everything that we've covered on our show, this is the best show that I've seen. I was super impressed. The quality of performer was WWE level, I think, on average. The match quality was WWE level on average. Just like you said, I've now got a long list of performers to keep my eye on for the next couple of years. And I hope that they all find themselves on bigger stages in the near future because, man, it was just a great night. I give it a 7.5.
But anyways, let's get to our finale. Thank you guys so much for trekking with us off the beaten WWE path for an indie-rific adventure. WrestleMania is 1 week away at the time of this recording, which of course means it will be our next episode. In anticipation of that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to help us continue to move forward and do what very little we can to shine a spotlight on the amazing world of women's professional wrestling. Also, try and drop by our home at divadirt.com to catch up on the latest news, rumors, stories, interviews, and information regarding the fairer genders sports entertainment. Dustin, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, go back and check out our last 2 episodes if you haven't yet. Jinx and Jocelyn Navarro. We have interviews with both of them up. They're really entertaining. And go check out all of these awesome performers that we talked about today because almost all, if not all of them, are worth buying a ticket just to see one of them. They're all amazing, amazing performers.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Dustin, you're the best. Thanks for joining me as always. And I guess we'll see you guys after WrestleMania. Bye.
Bye.
Boom, ticky, ba boom, boom, ticky, ticky, boom, ticky, ba boom, boom, ticky, ticky, work.